Hi, everyone. Welcome to Office Hours, the mobile edition. I'm here in a hotel in LA. If you are watching on YouTube, you can see a link to the Zoom link. That's where a lot of us are actually conversing. That's how this all gets generated. If you're an attendee and you're looking at all of this and you think that you might be able to answer some of these questions better than we are, it's quite possible. We'd love to have you join us. We open the doors at 6. I can't promise anything at 6, although it's a really fun conversation. But today we were talking about mobile homes, and then we finally got to more tech things. But we talk about all kinds of things from 6 to 6:40. 6:40, we hand out the Discord link. This is a place where about 800 of us keep on talking about this stuff between. But you have to come and be there, and it expires when I do this announcement, so you won't be able to get in. And now you have to come back another time. At 6:42, we do the mic checks. Once we've done the mic checks, we've closed the panel. So we want to make sure that you have good audio, good video, good internet, and you're ready to join us. So if you do want to join the panel, be here by 6:40 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. 7 o'clock, we have general Q&A. Now, normally we have a second hour that has more specific Q&A, but we're going to start that back up next week. We're starting to slowly put together a pretty great set of days coming up forward. So, but right now we'll have 2 hours of Q&A this week. So we'll have, and this is very different than, and you've heard me say this before, most of you, that this is a very different thing than most places where the audience generates the show. We talk about the show. We talk about your questions, but your job is to ask the questions and to vote on those questions and let us know what you want to, what you're interested in, what you're trying to figure out. We're kind of all just trying to piece it together. And so we learn from you by what you ask, and hopefully you learn a little bit by watching us discuss it. So anyway, so that's kind of the big plan. Chris, do we have any questions?
I'm sure that we do, and it just dawned on me. I haven't sent any of them over, but let me do that real quickly.
Go ahead.
I'm going to hand over the con.
Yep.
Yeah. The first question comes from Doug Ferguson in Fort Wayne. Can we do a second hour on sports graphics?
Absolutely. Just put it in the second hour thing. I think that's great.
Yeah, I think that would be a good one too. I'll put this in the thing. The other one I think would be super interesting is financial graphics. Basically anything where it draws from a database.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that we want to, I'd like to spend more time on graphics in general. I think that we have audio and video, education. We have artists coming in. I think that we will lean. Monday's still kind of the second hour that's the wild card, but I think that we'll probably lean on more graphics on those ones just to talk through it. Because I think
corporate overlays would be cool too.
Sorry?
Corporate overlays I think would be cool.
Yeah, in general, just talking about those types of things. I mean, I think that how we generate those graphics, and a lot of those, whether it's sports graphics or financial graphics, are dynamic graphics. They're taking live data or recently generated data and generating graphics out of them, which I think is really interesting. So
we did a lot of election graphics, exit polls and things like that. So that might be.
Yep, absolutely. Go ahead.
And I constantly see the same credit roll questions in the young movie makers things over and over again. How do I get credit rolls with dense type to look good while it's scrolling without breaking up?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, Chris.
Or jittering. Jason, what would you define as, you just used the term corporate overlays?
Corporate overlays would be the use of a downstream keyer to put graphics on that add to a message, but aren't distracting or weird or gamery or flashy.
Gamery.
Well, what's funny is that one of the things that we were talking to some social influencers, and one of the first things that they do when they talk to corporations is say, stop using all those bugs, because the current viewers, the social viewers, immediately look at the bugs as it's corporate. Like they just go, they write it off almost immediately if you put too much stuff on it. It's an interesting. Now, adding graphics, I think that one of the places that I saw, I think we talked about this earlier, but like if you looked at the State of the Union during the Obama administration, they had all kinds of added graphics while he was talking. So there was a State of the Union in a window, and then you had all this extra graphics that was underlying what he was talking about. And it was a great way to, it was way more interesting than the State of the Union. So basically it made the YouTube stream more valuable for a viewer than the broadcast. And I think that there's a lot of opportunities to add to that. Go ahead, Chris.
So was that, and I don't remember, so they took the 16:9 of the president, pushed him back, and then did a half screen, or did they
Yeah, it's
split
just
the
a-
screen? Did they
it's
change
just
the aspect ratio of the?
I think
State
I
of the
read
Union
somewhere that
feed?
it was literally, a DVE over a keynote.
Right.
Just the keynote is running over here. You have a DVE over
No,
here.
that would work just fine.
Super simple.
You know, one of the things that I do a lot of is taking PDFs or Illustrator. Does anybody deal with Illustrator files that have multiple, what do they call them? Artboards,
Yeah.
where it'll be an artboard for every frame. Those drive me nuts. And I would love to show how I deal with them so that somebody can correct me and I could learn. Because once
would
you
love
put
that too.
once you put something out there public, like this is how I do it, you're gonna have like 50 people going, wow, you're really dumb. You should have done it this way. And so I would be willing to take that arrow in my back. But one of
Right.
the things I deal with all the time is I'll get an Illustrator file with like 30 or 40 artboards, and I have to take each one of those frames apart so that I can animate it all in After Effects, and then I make those as ProRes 4x4s that I overlay in Final Cut,
Right.
like split screen stuff.
Yeah. We should definitely. I think there's a lot of second hours that could be filled up with a lot of graphics.
With the amount of time that I spend doing it, there has to be a better way.
Go ahead, Phil.
It's not, and I know we're on a little bit of a tangent, but what you just described, Chris, is not unlike we do a lot of animation of interfaces as prototype for software, and we
Right.
do that in OmniGraffle because the artboards allow you to do all the design in OmniGraffle, but then just do like this one big export of all the little elements out to be able to animate those, and it's
Yeah,
really easy to
OmniGraffle
do.
changed my life. It's
Yeah.
so much better than Illustrator for
Yeah.
that kind of
Yeah,
task.
I mean, I don't really get a choice because they're coming from design
Designers.
houses and art directors, and they're always going to use Adobe. So
But
Well,
the
can
cutting up
you
part,
bring? And I haven't done it for a long time. Can you bring Illustrator layers into After Effects? Because I know you can do it with Photoshop. We did
you
that.
can
Yeah,
bring
absolutely.
SVG out.
can
The
convert
problem
SVG will go
is-
out.
Problem is,
the problem is, I was trying to raise my hand. The problem is that the vast majority, if not 100% of Illustrator artists, when they are done with a file, they will give you a thing that is a single layer. And it has a million objects inside that layer, but those objects don't show up as individual objects in After Effects.
right?
So the first thing I do is I spend 20 minutes ripping it apart into individual layers, saving that file, and then I import it into After Effects. And again, there's got to be a smarter way than what I do, because it's
Well-
an ungodly sinkhole of time.
Ruby Lith and a razor blade.
It's just we just call that value add.
No, I mean, and what's really nice is so like many clients will go, well, how much would that cost? I'll go, well, it's a lot of clicks, so a lot. And then there's clients that I've done this for years, where they'll just send me the file and they'll go, do that thing you do. And they know that like 3 days later, they're going to start seeing output from me. But it's the output that they've grown to
Well, that's
appreciate.
the whole thing, is that there's you can either try to train the client to do it well, or you just get good at managing their requests effectively. And when you when you get really good at handling your client's requests, so that they don't have to think about it, and you figure out a way to systematize what they're doing, they get very attached to you because they'll go to somebody else who doesn't know how to do that, and they're like, oh, this is really hard. Like this is hard to work with this person, because I used to just be able to send it to Chris, and Chris just made it work, and he didn't complain about it, and he didn't charge me more for it. I mean, the cost is somewhere in there, but the point is it didn't show up as a line item. It didn't, whatever, it just got done. And clients get really addicted to that, because they're busy. They got a whole bunch of other things to worry about, and they don't want to worry about figuring that part out, because that was already figured out with Chris.
Every time we've tried to, literally over decades, tried to, say, hey, can we show you some things that you could do to save you some time in your edit? They're like, I don't have time to deal with that.
Yeah, and then just and we get just every crazy format, and we just learn how to systematize it. Like, how do we you know, like how do we're going to get this from this client for the next year. We have a bad habit of, we don't tell them anything that would work better or not. We just say, yeah, sure. And then we handle it. You know, and the first couple times it feels like you're being dragged along the asphalt. And then after that, you're running along the asphalt. And after that, you're back in the car, you know, like, and you just have kind of a, you know, it's a process. Go ahead,
Right.
Sky.
I'm sorry.
I remember when rotoscoping, we used to do it a lot. And I said, oh, it's just so tedious. And a friend of mine in Santa Monica who had a flame shop said, oh no, it's meticulous. And I said, so what's the difference between tedious and meticulous? And he said, about $600 an hour.
That's great, Jason.
Oh, that's so true. Getting back to Illustrator, I would say the lasso tool and some Illustrator actions have been my saving grace. That and paste in place. But other than that, yeah, I would be interested. I don't know anyone who uses Illustrator who thinks that they're using it perfectly. Because if you do, either you're right and I'm an idiot, or you're wrong because it's too much to know.
I have to admit, the last Illustrator that I was really, really good at was 6. Like 6, I was like, I knew everything in
It's a
6.
decade ago.
I would
I know,
love
and
to
after
do,
that, after that, it's been downhill.
I would love to do a 3rd hour, me and Jason just trading Illustrator
Yeah,
punches.
I still have
That
trouble
would-
with the path tool. Anyway,
Illustrator shootout.
yeah, exactly.
Okay,
Okay,
shootout. Just to
next
share.
question.
All right, Michael Vosbein from Woodstock, Georgia, says, are there any video mixers that handle HDMI and USB Logitech cameras?
Niet. Oh, go ahead. Mickey.
I think software switchers.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, you'd have to figure out how to convert the HDMI to USB or HDMI to Thunderbolt, or you have to get the HDMI into your computer. But if you can get the HDMI into your computer, then what's that? Guy Cochran's showing something. He's now.
What if there was a 7-inch touchscreen that switched to?
Guy is the invaluable resource to have around.
Is that really
USB.
taking a USB camera?
Yep, and then Ethernet, and then
Who makes
audio
that?
in.
USB Type C. Ooh.
It's shipping now.
And
Is that
Is
the
that
YOLO?
only-
$999, and it works.
And that's a USB in, not a USB out for something else.
Positively, it is a USB in, so
Who
you could
makes
even
this-
feed an
who makes
ATEM
such a
in
product?
here. You could feed an ATEM in here and add on 4 more channels. So you got 2 in HDMI, and then you can add in
And you said it says touchscreen for switching.
touchscreen display. Yeah,
What is it?
Is that the
called the
YOLO?
YoloBox. Yeah,
YoloBox.
Yeah.
I've had
Now,
one for
is
about
it-
6 months, but I wasn't in love with it. But yesterday I went into church and they were streaming with one of these, so I went and
I think
re-looked
Paul
at it.
ordered one of these.
Cool.
It'll be
Is it
interesting to see.
HDMI or HDMI?
HDMI.
Okay.
I did not order one, John.
Is it
sorry.
6K and Dolby Atmos?
No, evidently not.
Well,
Yeah, and that is, it's a 1080p switcher.
It is 1080p.
That's great. Does it do 60 or 30?
I don't know if it does 60, 30 for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, it does. Video recorded resolution is 10.
How much
you
is
guys
it?
aren't seeing. It's $9.99. They just dropped the price last week, so I got to update the price on our site. But
I'd love
they
to
were
test
$10.98.
it. The reviews I saw a couple places online were not great.
Yeah, at first I wasn't in love with it. In fact, I didn't even want to tell you guys about it. I just I had one sitting over here literally in a bin for 6 months. And then it got some firmware releases and got better. And so now it's actually a real world
I'd
product.
love to
that
play with it. That
Yeah.
sounds cool.
send you one if you want to play with one.
I'll play with one.
Okay,
Send me
I'll get you one.
Okay.
How many total HDMI ports do you get with it if you add the ATEM mini guy?
Well, you'd have 2 in, and then if you fed it in via USB, you would add the 4 from the ATEM mini. So you would take the USB out of the ATEM mini and into the YOLO. So it'd show up as a webcam essentially.
Yeah, so it'd be 6 total, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Could you put
it'd be interesting to test.
Put a link in the Makana.
Go ahead, Stuart.
Guy, can it go the other way and be used as a USB output?
No, it doesn't have USB out. It's just,
I'm
it
just
has
thinking it
HDMI
might
out
be a-
though. So you can do
I'm just thinking it
HDMI.
might be something useful upstream of an ATEM, say, with a pair of Atomos Shoguns as playback engines.
But they could just be playback engines into the ATEM, right?
Yeah, but you would then be
just
using
give
up
me
your
more
camera inputs.
But at $9.99, you could just you just have another ATEM. You do like ATEM on, like you could have 3 of them for the same price.
Well, yeah, and regarding the price, I mean, I feel like the entire industry is having to recalibrate and readjust to the ATEM Mini. Like it's just completely changed the game.
Yeah, Mickey and then Bill. No, we'll move on.
Guy, what's the USB-C connector for?
I've just used it for charging, so that's all that
Yeah,
I've seen. It does
that was
come
my
with a
question.
little.
Looks like
comes-
power in. I wonder if it would run off of one of those big anchor style brick
Oh, I'm sure it
batteries,
would.
because those have
Sure it
enough wattage now. You think it'd
Yeah,
run it?
no
So
problem.
it could be a mobile solution too.
Yeah, it
Man-
actually comes with a 4G dongle, the little LTE dongle USB, and then I stuck a. This is where I got frustrated with it, is I stuck my SIM card in it and I couldn't get it to work, so I kind of throw it in the bin. Like, dang it, this thing, because I have my live view over there and it just works, you know. And so when I
Right.
went to go stream, I was like, I'll just grab the live view. But now this thing's starting to get the firmware updates and
Mhm.
be a real product.
Manufacturer part
That'll be
number.
fun to play with.
Take bigger than a 32 gig SIM card, SD card.
Manufacturer part number 001.
Next question.
It's a question from Guy. What is a good example of using Vmix in the cloud?
I don't know if we
You
have the
need
right.
one F Jeff.
Go ahead, George.
So I've been using Vmix in the cloud for a couple of weeks now, but mostly for playouts. I've done one stream with 8 guests, just bringing in, it's all been Vmix calls. But I do a lot of playouts. If it's just playback to stream, I've been using the cloud to do that. It's just easier to spin up a machine. So that's one example that I'm using it for.
We've definitely we've seen a couple projects where you're having people using either SRT or Vmix to Vmix, and the Vmixes are on the ground going to a one in the cloud. And it just means that you're now in the cloud able to switch between those. And it's not really a live show as much as jumping from one Vmix to the next to handle like 2 or 3 different cities. But there's one that's kind of managing that stream. So that stream is, that's the constant place. That's the switcher between locations. And so then you can go back and forth between the different locations that need to go into it. And it's a nice stable place. And it's not you don't have another physical location for you to need to manage. So, and that can be either other Vmixes that are sending to it, or just anything that's outputting SRT from that location. So far, the ones that we've been looking at for that haven't required a lot of two-way. So it hasn't required us to, so SRT works really well. You don't need Vmix call. You can get a better, because it's just a matter of we're going from this location to this location to this location. But what we don't want to do is start the stream up again. So they all need to get to somewhere that's being encoded as a central place. And that allows you to then add graphics, play out to George's, so you can have interstitials and other things that are happening, which is a nice way to transition from one location to the other. Like it's jumping from this location live to that location live. What you need is glue in between it. So you need, I want to play out. Okay, now we're going to go to a movie, or whatever. Or there's an introduction that we're going to DC, or there's an introduction that we're going to New York. So there's like a little 1 or 2 minute video, and during that time, we're going to switch our source, and then over comms, in our case, Agent IC, you're telling folks on the other end that you are. Hey, we're coming to you, and then we count them in, and then they're live on the other side, and so that's a kind of a useful way to do it. Now we can do that a little bit in hardware in our facility, but if like for instance, I have a couple shows that are coming through that our facility's full. Like I can't do any more work in it. It's ours is tapped out till early November. Like all the computers and everything is all all the staff. So putting it in the cloud is just another way to handle demand. So anyway, that might be one way to think about it. Any other? Next question.
Okay. Our own Paul Wallace says, if you're not getting audio through HDMI from a device, for example, a Facebook portal to Zoom webinar, what's the workaround to transport the audio to Zoom? can I be the dumb guy in the room? What is a Facebook portal?
Facebook portal is a piece of hardware. It's a screen that has a camera and I think that someone was showing it. John Idelson was showing it the other day. You missed it because you weren't here over the weekend, so you missed everything. You're way behind now. You're like so in the past. You're like,
show you if you want.
This question is so 2 days ago,
and my wife is very happy with me.
Anyway, so it's a single screen, and then it has a 4K camera at the top, and that 4K camera will do pan and scan inside of it, so it'll like follow human forms and everything else. So if you're walking around your room, you can, it'll look over to you and then it'll follow you around while you're talking to it and everything else. And so you can have kind of the idea is more regular conversations with folks on the other side of that portal.
Chris Fenwick's one-word review, creepy.
It's anyway. Yeah, but it creates a relatively seamless conversation. What it does is pretty hard. It has to figure out, body position and everything else and frame it well as if you have multiple people, it's like, how do you frame for two? And then also, how do you hear all those commands and everything else inside of a lot of different audio things with accents and everything else. It does it pretty well. Jason?
My initial question, I missed this weekend too, but my initial question is, how does it, I would use an aux send. That's the easy, that's the go-to way of doing that. Assuming that it's got an aux in.
I don't know if it has any kind of aux in. I think it's pretty. I don't know. I haven't seen the current shipping.
I wonder positionally if it's using sound also to double check its framing.
Yeah, I don't know if you could use a portal and have some kind of other audio. Yes.
So I'm streaming right now using a portal. I tried to do like a little show this weekend, and you can see my video, but obviously the audio is not coming through on this from this portal. And that's actually directly from a portal right there.
Well, I saw an SDI in on the bottom. That'll take your audio if you put it in better in.
There's an SDI in the portal.
Did I see that on the bottom, or was that my imagination?
No, that was a Kenwood radio he was showing there. He just showed the video coming from the portal.
ICOM radio, actually.
Or ICOM.
There is a USB-C on the back.
So I don't know. We have to think about that one a little bit further. All right.
There is a USB-C on the back. I have a portal downstairs. I was just waiting for the software to get released today. Hopefully it comes out. John Middleston was running a beta, but I have one downstairs, and I'll plug in my USB mic and see what happens and follow up.
Yeah, perfect.
No, I'll follow up with you, Guy. I'll be very interested in your results.
By the way, Guy, I was kicking around the injection molding stuff over the weekend based on our conversation. Another one that Chris missed because he wasn't here.
Guilt and shame.
Anyway,
ladies and gentlemen, you are watching the Alex Lindsay technique of guilt and shame to keep the numbers up in the panel and the attendees. Guilt and shame. That's what he uses.
Anyway, most of the people I did talk to a couple of people that do injection molding, and they said that if you started printing right now, by the time you had the injection molds done, you would have already printed your 100. Like if you just start running the printer 24/7, you'll get ahead of it. You may decide you want to go to injection molding, because injection molding down the road, the tooling will be expensive. And none of them, they're all busy. Like everybody I've talked to right now is just like, they are booked for 6 months right now. So they're like, it's really hard to get into one. But what they said was that if you start printing, you just let it run all the time. You print a bunch of them at the same time. They'd love to do it, and it'll drop your cost to nothing. Like once the injection mold is done, you're talking, if you print enough of them, it's pennies not pennies, but like less than $1 a unit, to print them. But it, and it'll be fast, but the tooling and the process and the testing will take weeks. And, it's not something that generally gets done overnight. Just in the general process. There's rush ways of doing it. It gets really expensive. Anyway, but that was the feedback so far. So anyway, they were like, oh, I would just start printing if I only had to do 100. They're thinking 10,000 units, 100,000 units. Those are the kind of numbers that they're mostly dealing with. Like 1,000 would be a short run, and 100 is like, you should just use a printer. like it's not, like they're like, that's not what we're kind of built for. If you think that down the road you'll do 1,000, then it makes sense. Anyway, just that was the feedback I got so far.
All right, thanks.
Yep, John.
Comment about dedicated pieces of hardware for video over networks, in my experience, have failed miserably. Anytime somebody builds a dedicated piece of hardware just to do video conferencing, they've failed over and over and over again. VTEL, Polycom, all those units have failed miserably.
I think that the issue is, I think that Facebook really expected it to be something that's connected to Facebook. And when they started working on it, the brand had a different connotation than it has right now. So I think the challenge they have is getting over the current, brand marketing. Mickey?
Yeah, just going back to Paul's question, like Paul, are you certain that there's no audio coming out of the portal, like through the HDMI connection? Have you tried it, like say connecting it to a TV or some other device?
Yeah. There's audio coming out to a TV. I've tried that.
Okay, so and what are you feeding how you're getting that HDMI signal into Zoom? Are you using an ATEM or?
I'm using an ATEM Mini Pro.
Okay, so you just need to enable the audio on that input, that HDMI input within the ATEM, the actual unit. Like you have an on button there to enable the audio from it.
All right, I'm going to try that.
Cool.
Tried.
Good, Mickey. All right, next question.
Okay, Mr. James Babbitt from San Diego says, Chris Fenwick, could you give more information about the Moco's 12 megapixel HDMI camera 1080p HD streaming webcam? And the answer would be no. I mean, I ordered it because somebody was using it and it looked pretty good and it was super cheap. And I was like, okay, Jason could probably give us more information, but I'm doubting he's even plugged it in yet.
Yeah, I haven't even plugged it in. So here it is. It looks cool and very hipstery with old school, set down.
Oh, well, that's good to know, because I wouldn't want
lenses.
to own a camera that doesn't look hipster.
Oh yeah. Yeah, high hipster appeal here, with the real tactile chrome on the lenses.
I thought Jeff looked really good with it over HDMI. I thought that the USB did not look as good. Good, Sky?
Does it have autofocus built into it? Do we know?
No.
Okay, stepping away.
Oh, next question. Oh, go ahead, Roscoe.
Oh, I was just going to say, somebody mentioned that the lens mount actually fits a lot of other devices like microscopes and telescopes. So that's, it's a specialty feature, but I thought it was an interesting feature for that specific camera.
Something else worth noting, the sensor is a Sony IMX377 Exmor R CMOS, which is a pretty decent sensor for the size, certainly for the price.
It's just a standard C mount.
How are we not?
Right?
How are we not doing live streams from telescopes?
That is Jason's superpower, by the way. Reading manuals.
Jeff says yes.
I was thinking the same thing. It's like he pulled over, he stopped, he asked directions, he read the manual. It's like something my wife will never let me do.
I can't
Next
find
question.
most of my manuals. Dave Burke from Alexandria, Virginia says, on Zoom, I want to toggle between my camera and my screen using OBS, but the screen looks blurry to the other participants. How do you guys get sharp screen shares through Zoom, through Zoom's video channel?
Go ahead, Jason.
Hardware.
It's not just hardware.
Well, and screen sharing, but yeah.
We're using screen sharing. I mean, go ahead, Mickey.
Yeah, by default, a standard pro account on Zoom will just send out, I think 640p or 360p.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, if you're just on a standard account, it's gonna look very pixelated to the other attendees.
And essentially, it's prioritizing frame rate or spatial quality. So it's either resolution or frame rate. So when you choose screen share, you're going to get resolution and not frame rate. If you choose the regular video, you get frame rate but not resolution, and you have to choose between them. The one way that if you want to use OBS to switch between those and you're on a Mac, you can take the video in. I don't know if that would work. Will QuickTime maybe won't see that.
You could take
what I do with hardware when I have an ATEM is the ATEM is a source to QuickTime, and QuickTime is an open window, and I share the QuickTime window. So I do a screen share of the QuickTime window, and that what that gives me is the ability to have a hardware switcher on the outside, switching my show into a screen share. I still lose my frame rate, but I have now a hardware switcher that is being screen shared. And that's the easiest way that I have found to bring in a screen shared video, like video production. So like when I was speaking at the post-production world, that's how I handled showing motion, because you had to see the interface. You had to see all the little things that I was doing. So what I did is I had motion running actually into an ATEM and then feeding back into QuickTime as a source. Does that hopefully that makes sense. And then you screen share the QuickTime window, because it's just a feed from whatever you're there. Now you're still going to lose frame rate, but you're going to get resolution, and it means that you're switching. It's just less cumbersome than switching screen shares all the time, which would be annoying. It just makes a smoother switch, but you're still going to lose frame rate. But that's the screen share is what you need to go to do that. With OBS, I don't know of any way to do that because QuickTime won't see it as an input.
And you're trying to preserve the resolution for the tiny detail.
I want graphics. I want to be able to switch back from me to the thing. I want a whiteboard. I want, all the things that I like to have, and I want to be able to, switch to it as I tap a button, not like, okay, now I'm going to screen share something else. Now I'm going to go to my camera. Now I'm going to go to that's like really painful inside of Zoom. So having a little ATEM mini on the outside that you can switch between those sources and then be able to, have it be a screen share, even though if I'm going to lose frame rate, that's the most seamless way I found to do it so far. Mickey?
Yeah, OBS virtual camera will show up within QuickTime as like just another input, like an ATEM. But yeah, you will lose the frame rate.
Yeah, but you'll lose the frame rate, but you'll still have the fluidity and graphics and all the other things that you would get out of OBS. Go ahead, Beiju.
Yeah, so a quick question on that. You're saying use screen share basically to get the resolution. Screen share also has an option in advance to add a second camera webcam in it. So would the ATEM mini straight going in straight, would that look good as well?
It probably would. I haven't tried it. I think that I don't know where I would. Where does it show up as like two screens now that are being fed into Zoom? Go ahead, Guy.
It just shows up. It takes over a screen share, so it's like 720 or 1080. On the regular Zoom just client, I found that you do get that drop in frames per second. It'll still be like 10, 15, somewhere in there. But on a Zoom room, if you do it, it does kick it up to 30. So it's kind of interesting.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I should test it with more Zoom rooms too. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Next question. Oh, go ahead, Mickey.
Yeah, this is why we need Guy hint to start that Zoom room as a service.
ZRAS, Zoom room as a service. All right, next question.
Next question comes from Mikael Fredriksson from Sweden, and he says, any of you that have used Playout B, a HyperDeck Mini emulator on Raspberry Pi from Jonas Dotel?
No.
I don't know why you would want to emulate a HyperDeck Mini. Like, the point of it is to be rock solid and completely separate.
But this would be a really inexpensive way to do a playout. I'm kind of
if it's solid, if it's reliable, it'd be amazing. But
so
no, I haven't played with it.
I've definitely seen. I've seen a lot of playouts using Raspberry Pi. I think I was talking about this earlier, but an AWS engineer that I work with, he just goes, Alexa, and calls out start streaming, and it turns the link on and has a Raspberry Pi spin up and starts spinning video, and it works seamlessly all the time. It'd be interesting. Lawrence?
Yeah, I think it's a good solution for a lot of people. It's basically $18, and then you have to add, the price of your Raspberry Pi. But it's a good alternative for a HyperDeck because they're hard to find, and it's dirt cheap, and it is recognized by the ATEM as a control, which is amazing. There's a Windows version in the making, so it's definitely it's good that people think about this. I think it's a great little thing.
Would I do that for a client-based event? No. Would I do it for like something on my own or education or something like that? I'm definitely interested in testing that. I wouldn't want to. the main thing is I wouldn't want to, when things go wrong, you also have to oftentimes talk to your client about what happened, and having something homespun is a great way to end up under the bus. Go ahead. Next question, Chris.
I built a playback device for
Yeah,
$30.
yeah, and it didn't work for your big event.
Work great.
Yeah, it's like, Roscoe, were you going to say one more thing?
Oh, I think it's codec limited too, but I'm looking at it for sure. Yeah, it's very.
What's it called again?
Little product.
Playout B.
Playout B.
Yeah, I'm very interested. Next question.
Our own Phil Lenger says, has anyone else experienced mysterious loss of Stream Deck profiles on a Mac?
Just this morning, I went to the Stream Deck and I have like 3 pages of icons, and 2 of the pages are just missing. They're gone. Go figure. That's the last time I let my 4-year-old come in here and play. Yeah.
I think your 4-year-old just went in and deleted.
I have a theory about what your problem might be. We should talk offline.
Okay. All right. No, it's just me then. Next question.
All right. Next question.
Jerry Hoyle says on GMA this morning, I think that's Good Morning America in the United States, a virtual chat with talent had serious audio sync issues. What tools would the talent have had to correct this?
Talent doesn't correct anything. Let's make clear about that. But no, there are a lot of apps. I'm blanking on the one where you hold up the iPad and it plays that. Alex, what's it called? The it plays like a starburst sound.
Well, there's Hitomi has one that they runs on an iPad, that if you have the hardware on the other end, it'll just read the iPad and say what it is. A lot of times the problem is you might test it early, and broadcasters, here's what I will say is that most of the broadcasters work with just go, well, it's the web. Like, they don't try to fix it. They don't try to, like what we do is in each channel, our audio engineer will sit there and play with it right in the first minute and tweak that delay to tighten up the delay in the first 30 seconds to a minute of a hit. Just to make up for whatever the latency is for that person at that time. And it works really well, but broadcasters just don't want to deal with it. And it's something that they think is stupid. They just think this whole online web thing is stupid, and, they're just waiting for it to end. And so they're not building the tools or using their tools to solve it effectively because they think they don't want to deal with it. Mickey, and then Bill, and then John.
Yeah, to what Jason was saying, yeah. You don't rely on talent to fix that. Their MCR would have all the tools they would need to fix it, and
their mixer could just easily just do it. Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
I'm considering it a value add now, because I was watching a talking head on one of the news stations, and the macro blocking started getting bad and then worse, and eventually they just completely melted, and they were still talking, and they stayed on with the crisp background and an entire op art painting of their face, and it was delightful.
Go ahead, John Preto.
Yeah, guy has a video of one of those melty macro blocks. Today at like 4 a.m. Pacific, Don Trump Jr. was on, and he was on one of those insert stages, and all of a sudden they started flipping between the backgrounds, and it changed like 10 times. I'm like, oh, and they quickly went to the other guests. It just happened like 4 or 5 hours ago.
That is definitely the someone doesn't realize that where they are on the router. They're just flipping through they're getting ready for, because a lot of times those insert stages.
Changing the source, I'm not seeing anything change.
Exactly.
You're looking at the wrong monitor, buddy.
Yeah, and welcome to live TV, Sky.
So to Jason's point, I absolutely agree. The talent should not be the engineer. At the same time, when the news agencies tell the reporter and the camera person that they are now both a reporter and a camera person, and they say the same thing to the camera person, you are now a reporter and a camera person. And so if you want to keep your job, you got to be a person that wears all those hats. So Alex, you missed it on Friday. Chris is your friend from the professor. His best analogy, and I think John Preto also brought in the concept, we are now in the world of where the automobile was replacing the horse. And the best analogy was they would even carry a spare horse in case the automobile broke.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is that one of the things that helps a lot is the support stuff that's inside of Zoom oftentimes is like when we bring people in, we're like, hey, can we just grab your screen for a second? And I had someone who they had a Brio and they're having trouble with it and their color is off and the framing's off. And I just said, I wanted more control over it than they had webcam settings and I wanted more control than what Zoom will give me. So I just said, you mind if I share your screen? And they're like, sure. And I just went in there and changed the color and put all, and once they saw me do it, they immediately knew how to do it after that. Like it was, and then they go, oh, okay, now I understand. Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, one more thing. Let me see if I can switch that. So an easy way to do this, of course, if you can actually dial it in, is just with a set audio delay. I mean, just to answer your question, this is the drop dead simple solution.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, anytime you see it in broadcast, every mixer has a per input of whoa, there you go.
That's terrible. Oh,
yeah.
Look at his face. He's just really?
That's not the one I saw. Mine was even worse than that.
Well, and the main thing is because that's where the pixels are changing. So the other pixels in a long, very long GOP, a long group of frames, that's where pixels are changing. The other pixels aren't changing. So it says, oh yeah, I still understand what those frames are. So you see that, like, it doesn't know what to do with where the pixels are, changing.
Boy,
but
that's where
MJPEG
goes to die. That is terrible.
Yeah. Go ahead, Stuart.
Gentlemen, that is what NDI HX does regularly. That's why I keep banging on about don't use it. That's what it looks like.
There you go. All right. Next question.
It's a feature.
Peter Rosato from Las Vegas, Mr. Preto's neighbor. Good morning. I understand there are second hours being planned for this and automation, but what is Qlab?
Yeah, go ahead, Roscoe.
Qlab's been really widely accepted in the theater world from way back. I'm sure it maybe came from somewhere else, but basically it's a sequencing. You set up a sequence of events that you want to take place, and they can be audio events, video events, they can be cues to specific members on comms. There's all kinds of ways that you can use it. And then it's just take one, take two, take three. It's just sequences on through in the order you've set up.
Go ahead, Chris Fenwick.
Is Qlab the first of many steps to the Terminator movie franchise? Letting Skynet take over?
No, it's not.
You sure? Because that's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing a computer is running the show.
Yeah, and if I could just add on to the nice thing is the basic version is free, and so we have a lot of students that can learn it without having to pay for anything. And then when you want to add the video modules, so I can bring an example of a show we ran that had 5 screens, including 2 live screens, and it was a bear. This was a few years ago. It was a bear just to get it set up and running, but it worked.
Right. Go ahead, Lawrence.
Yeah, I agree with everything that Roscoe said. I used it over the years to run projections for theater, live theater and then we sent all these cues to 3, 4, 5 projectors, and we can do projection mapping and masking. These days, though, I use it as a media playback engine into the ATEM for streaming and live productions. So I don't use any media or streaming software on the Mac, but I do everything in the ATEM. And I can bring media in. I can control the ATEM through OSC. And so, yeah, you just approach it as a show. At top of the hour, there is a clock, and then there's a title card, and then there is a video, and you switch the ATEM. You can set keyers, start lower thirds, that kind of stuff. It's like a Swiss Army knife now.
And are you able through Qlab or from the ATEM, can you cue the Qlab to fire? So when you cut to it, it'll start playing like you would with an ATEM with a hyperdeck?
Yes, you can set. You can set fire a cue that says, okay, switch to the camera angle, switch the ATEM,
but
start the movie playback.
Can you use the hyperdeck tool within the ATEM to
No. But you don't really need it. You do everything in Qlab, and there you take the scripts and it goes back and it switches. But it does not recognize as far as I know,
but
by the ATEM software.
The commands are there, so it just
it totally possible. I send lower thirds, and then when first you set the key around, the downstream key around, then you fire your lower third, and then when it's over, it automatically switches back, turns the keyer off. And it's a cue-based system. During the show, the only button you push is the space bar 100 times.
Right.
And it's all lined up, ready to go. But it's for a scripted show, for a scripted situation.
Absolutely. John, and then Victor, and then Sky.
Hey, Lawrence, does it compete with Resolume?
There are different tools. I play with Resolume. Resolume it makes great effects and projections, but I think Qlab is more really like and if you work in an environment with light boards and soundboards, it all connects together. But they're in a similar ballpark, but just a little different approach and things.
Good, Victor.
The other thing that I'm finding is if you're doing live production or even semi-live, that it talks MIDI so well that you can completely interface with all of your digital mixers in real time, to change the scene in audio. Or what I'm experimenting with now is in Logic to be able to trigger different events, like turning off and on effects, doing automated fades in specific tracks. So it could be a multi-track project. So, and you can do all those things in real time because it's, like I said, the MIDI that it speaks is very, very fluent.
Sky.
So coming from theater, all of a sudden makes all the sense in the world. So Roscoe, my question is, does it also manage the lights? And then could you also describe what a cue is in theater terms? You hit your mark, cue. So it's
good. Lawrence
or Roscoe?
So yes, so you can trigger lights from as a cue. You can say, okay, fire this. You can connect over a network to the light board, and you can trigger a light cue on the light board. There's also a light module that you can buy for Qlab that allows you to program a whole lighting show and just send your lighting commands just to the what is it called, to the box, and it will set all the lights. So
will it interface with something like a grandma?
I have no clue.
What's a grandma? I don't even know what that is.
I've never heard of it.
And then Cosmic.
Yeah, no, yesterday I was watching the introduction to Qlab version 4. It sounds like light was a big demand. It's an awesome video to watch. The way they present that new feature without saying it was absolutely amazing.
And the grandma, I guess it's grandma 3 now, is like it's a lighting board. It's out of Germany, and it's a big lighting board. Go ahead, Lawrence.
Does it use DMX or any protocol? I'm sure it can. DMX is supported. Yeah.
Just think of it. It's a mature tool that everyone's been interfacing with in the theater world for many years. So it talks to lighting, it talks to audio, it talks MIDI, it just talks, and that's the great thing. And it's free.
Automated stage manager.
I mean, this is probably one of the grandma is one of the lighting boards that we see pretty commonly in the
Grand MA.
Yeah, Grand MA. We call it grandma. Grand MA. We call them grandmas. Go ahead, Lawrence.
I'm sorry, I'm getting on a roll here. But with in the streaming workflow I'm also using it to bring in AirPlay without an Apple TV, iPhone cameras, NDI sources, and also I can play key and fill with full transparency, all from Qlab. So it's really a Swiss Army knife. It's really, for some people, it might be very useful.
Yeah, absolutely. Next question.
I'd like to nominate Lawrence and Beiju for having the best looking cameras of the day.
Nice.
Both of those look awesome. I'm jealous. Jason, our own Jason says, has anyone updated to ATEM switcher software version 8.5 and noticed an improvement in sync on the ATEM minis? Victor, I'm thinking particularly about your AV sync issue.
Go ahead, Victor.
I have updated. Tomorrow morning, I will unplug my workflow and go back to that CalDigit Thunderbolt hub, and we'll do a test tomorrow too.
What is the best hub right now? What do we think is the best hub for if you're going to use a hub? Go ahead, Phil.
OWC.
OWC.
Thunderbolt.
Yeah.
OWC.
Great.
They're a little hard to find right now. eBay and those places, they're up pretty close to retail.
Mm-hmm. Next question.
Larry Jacobson from Cheyenne, Wyoming says, I tell you, one thing I've learned from office hours is all my state abbreviations. Has anyone updated their iPad Pro 12.9 inch to iPad OS 14? If so, did you experience any negative issues affecting Mukana or issues with other major apps? I updated one of our phones and the tvOS plus their following update, and they were fine. Mine is an iPad Pro 3rd generation.
Go ahead, John.
I have the 11 Pro with iOS 14. I have no issues. It's working great.
Jason?
Check your Safari advanced preferences and just reset all of those. I guarantee you've got something weird in JavaScript or some accessibility thing you've turned on and forgot, and that's what's happening.
Next question.
I am woefully behind. Give me just 1 second here. Boop, boop. From Steve in New York, he says, George, is there an upside of running playouts with Vmix in the cloud versus Restream?
I have no experience with Restream, but for me personally, costs. I'm not locked into Restream. I could just fire up AWS and go from there. So that's my side of that.
Yep, Beju.
Yeah, one additional thing is you get a lot more flexibility. Like if you have certain files are coming in last minute, you can add it to a running event in Vmix if you need to, or if you need to skip something out, you have a more flexible playlist. If you have a time, you need to be more flexible on what you're doing. I believe with Restream, you have to load up one file and the whole thing has to play out as it is, rather than being able to jump in and out or push through something or skip something out, which you could do if you're using through Vmix.
Go ahead, John, and then George.
Plus one for Beju. Somebody, I don't know, George, was it you that posted the speed test inside of AWS and the speed was ridiculously fast?
Yes, it was pretty insane. Let me just add, and I don't mind sharing with you guys because this is just my personal stuff that I'm doing. I've been running, like I said, I'm new to Vmix, but you know, if you work in the production world, you kind of understand A/B switching. My cost is about $200 right now for the month, and that's running 8 PC machines just for Zoom ISOs that I was doing, and 4 Vmix machines, and that's gonna be for the entire month, you know, for 30 days of just operating in the cloud. So about $200, and to me, and that cost was passed on, by the way, because I was actually doing a client job. So if you think about costs, and if you're a small shop, I don't need to have that kind of machines here. I can move it all to the cloud. So if you think about the costs and what you get in the cloud, you know, it's awesome. You will eventually have to invest in Vmix, you know, a full suite or a few, but that's just my take on it.
Yep, Beju.
Yeah, one additional thing is like if you're doing a lot more playout and stuff, you have the additional reliability of good bandwidth. That's one of the reasons we sometimes use it for playout. We're worried about what the local bandwidth is, the connection dropping off or something. It's easier to just have 2 instances running. And if you're streaming to YouTube, you could do primary and backup at the same time from there. And if they're on a virtual LAN, you could actually trigger both of them at the same time using the web API. So they're both actually in sync. Works pretty nicely.
That's great. Next question.
I'm just trying to double check in Mukana, the Q&A, one of the questions disappeared.
Yeah, it was one that I just noticed that Victor asked. He said, please ignore this question, so I deleted it.
Thank you. All right. Today, then the next question is Vincent Alvarez says, today I plan to buy a $60 level Vmix. I need to record people giving their presentations and cut back and forth to their webcam, maybe add lower thirds. Is this the right software for the PC? Am I missing anything? Connecting over Zoom?
Go ahead, Stuart.
Yeah, that version of Vmix will do that. Although its recording is recording the mainstream, it doesn't include the 4 ISO recording for replay. So just be aware of that. You're recording the mainstream only.
Nikki?
Yeah, I'm wondering if Vincent is planning on like doing the cut, like if this will be live streamed, because if not, maybe just do it in post and like a program like Final Cut or Premiere or whatever he's comfortable using. That will give him more control.
Yeah, just be careful that the $60 version just gives you 4 inputs and only 3 of them can be cameras or videos or titles. So it's pretty tight if you're trying to work on that. You really need to understand what you're doing. Like if you want to bring in extra lower thirds and stuff, and it doesn't let you do lists. That's one limitation on this version as well. You can't add a list as a source. It's only one thing at a time.
Okay.
So if you wanted to do multiple lower thirds, you have to bring that in, take it out, then bring it in, import it as a new source again each time when you want to do it.
Right. Sky?
I'm just curious if this would be a StreamYard best practice concept. And again, in the low end pseudo hobbyist concept, but it seems like it's a very simple switching software. It's cloud based, so it's everybody just has a web browser and they're on.
Possibly. Yep. Next question.
Nate Parcell from Orlando, Florida says, any suggestions for allowing Vmix call through a corporate VPN?
I mean, a lot of that challenges the WebRTC in general. You're going to have to work with if they've shut that down or blocked the ports that it needs, you'll have to work with IT to open up the ports that are necessary for it to find it. Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, the problem with WebRTC is that it doesn't have like set ports. It has a few set ports, but it's generally relying upon UPnP, and that becomes the issue. So yeah, just be sure that whoever's in charge of your corporate LAN correctly, of course, has UPnP off, but they better be right next to you.
Yep. Bill?
And I would say start very early, because most of those corporate IT people are working remotely as well. And sometimes I've had experiences where it takes a couple of weeks to get through to them and get back if you're doing something.
If you're in a big company, it's useful to know where the IT staff is. Like we've worked with companies where the primary person that's going to interact with us on that is in the Philippines or in India or whatever. And so we just have to know the time zone, because we make a request in the morning thinking it's going to get handled, but it's not going to get handled till that night. And once you sync in with that, then you just know that the request is due by 4 p.m. and then it'll be done when you wake up. It's actually I find the IT staffs in Asia to be much more convenient for me, because you get to the end of the day and you need something by the next day and you know that there's someone that's going to put that to sleep for you. Anyway, next question.
I had a friend of mine that hired a personal assistant from Manila. He called him Manila Joe. He goes, I'm going to have Manila Joe take care of that stuff overnight. Kev Brewer from Nottingham, UK says, okay, audio alumni. Does anyone have access or knowledge of Radioman software, Swedish, I think, used about 20 years ago? I think the file type was a S.48. It was a radio S software used by the local BBC radio stations at the time. Kev has dropped out.
I have a mini disc of a recording of John Glenn, not the astronaut, the film director who did the Bond movies, and it was recorded using a mini disc which had a particular piece of hardware in it which made it only compatible with this Radioman thing. And I'd quite like to get hold of the software so I can run it in its original file type and then do some conversion out and hopefully get that recording back out, because it's a half hour and he's discussing a lot of the stuff about Roger Moore and Dalton and all the Bond stuff.
I used to use
we never
mini
broadcast
discs
it
all the time. I never heard of anything being like locked down to a specific file type.
Oh my gosh, the
BBC,
the Mavic cameras, had those little mini discs, and I still have a pile of mini. Well, I doubt they're any good anymore. But I should have pulled all the photos off of them. But very soon after I bought it, I couldn't read it anywhere. Like it was, and within a year or two, and then I went back to grab some old images. Yeah, there's no way to. I literally could not find a way to get them off that drive. Victor.
Kev, I don't know if you're on a Mac or not, but you could use Audio Hijack just to, literally hijack the audio stream from that device and record it to whatever format you want.
If you have the device, yeah, absolutely. Jason and Bill, then Mickey.
If I'm remembering correctly, it's not S.48 unless S is the sound part. 48 is a Golden Orchard Apple II CD-ROM file audio format. And my guess is you can find, I would try K-Lite Codecs and see if that'll do it.
Go ahead, Bill.
I'd spend some time maybe in the Otter Facebook forums for audio people, because there's a forum for almost anybody. So put that in some of those old antique audio things and see who pops up. There are a lot of people who love that stuff.
Go ahead, Nikki.
Yeah, well, first I would ask your network from the BBC, like your network of people, and see if anyone knows how to get access to the software.
Yes, I've asked
But
that one many times and keep
yeah,
going with
maybe
blanks.
try Audacity if ever
Yeah, I thought of that.
this codec is encoded in with a PCM type of codec. Audacity is able to import raw PCM streams. So if it's encoded in PCM, maybe it can be able to read it if you use that import raw audio setting in Audacity.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
And just a reminder to our viewers that we're still another hour of general Q&A. I'm running a little low on questions. So if you have a question that you think that you would like to ask, this is your moment. You can definitely get questions in there. So think about what other questions you might have around media, or it'll be a shorter show than normal. It's a shorter show for me. I have to go to work. I'm going to go do some shooting. So we're gonna have Phil take over until Chris takes over until we finish the show. So
I was going to take over in Hazmat.
Yeah, there we go. We'll just keep moving through the system. So anyway, so thank you everybody. It's great seeing all of you, and I will be probably reaching out to someone. My production starts tomorrow at 5:30 in the morning, so I'm going to try to get either someone to hold the fort for me tomorrow. And it won't be me tomorrow, but I should be back on Wednesday. All right. See you guys.
Thanks, Alex.
All right. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Chris.
All right, Radio Man Software. That was an interesting one, Kev. Why do I not see? Oh, there you are. It's so weird when you're looking around. It's like, nope, he's gone, and now he's sitting right there. Jeff Dingkongs of Upland, California says, thoughts on popup-wifi.com when hardwire network isn't an option. I haven't seen that one.
I don't even know what popupwifi.com is. Anybody guys got a website up? Is it like a little hotspot, right? Jason, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I do. I mean, my guess is that it's an MVNO, unless
nice
is it
sticker.
just hardware? Mobile virtual network operator, somebody who's reselling cellular service, unless it's just the hardware.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sounds like it's some sort of a Mickey.
Yeah, it looks like they're also doing some sort of cellular bonding, and
right.
That would mean that at some place the servers are recombining those bonded packets.
And anybody here on the panel use any alternatives to that? Anybody have experience with any? Bill?
No, but I think Livestream. I think it's the business Livestream you is in some sort of a remote package that you can use for access that's bonded cellular that agilely switches cellular carriers as it needs to.
Right. So you might check that out. Otherwise, Jeff, check it out and give us a report back.
I'd like to know where they get those cool purple cases.
Yeah.
Oh, those are Pelicans with a trim on it.
There you go. That's what I want for traveling.
I like that.
Purple.
Nice.
I've always said it'd be fun to take pink spray paint and on my cases just write the word mine. So when they come off the case, the carousel, oh, that one's mine, obviously.
Yes. And then I'll come along and put no longer on there. Yeah.
A Mitchells from Washington says, why is Zoom telling me that my car multimedia is connected even when the Zoom app is off, shut down, and removed from current memory on my iOS device? I'm sorry, but that's a first world problem.
Car multimedia. This sounds odd that it would be Zoom telling him that. It sounds like it's maybe his computer or either his car or his iOS device saying that there's a connection that's prevalent. Yeah, Bill Davis?
Yeah, so to me, cars and Bluetooth has been an odd combination because they're very persistent. Once you log something into your car so that when you come in, it sees your phone, the car will look for those Bluetooth sources forever unless you get deep into the bowels of the system.
Tries to sit there and download all your contacts and your, picture files and everything. And it's like, just be a stupid speaker. Just let me just put some music on you and shut up. Jason.
Many modern cars are extremely grabby, shall we say.
needy.
I have given up for years, like even before I had a brand new car, just with aftermarket systems, I gave up because I'd be in my house, on my headset on a call. I would start my car and bloop, I would lose my call. So
Yeah.
my guess is it's something like that.
They're very aggressive with grabbing onto that signal, Chris.
Were you starting your car remotely, Jason?
Of course I was.
Another first world problem.
That's how you warm it up when it's cold outside.
Predo.
Or cool it down when it's hot outside.
Amen.
So when my wife goes to work at 6:30 in the morning, I'm at least 30 feet away upstairs, and my Bluetooth phone connects to her car when she turns it on and leaves. So she grabs all, and I'm listening to office hours. So she gets office hours until she moves out of range.
We need T-shirts that say "Stop Bluetooth Grabbiness."
Yeah. Stuart.
I have a solution for all of this. Drive an old car, no Bluetooth. I can recommend 66 Valiants and Barracudas.
A Caprice Classic would be nice. Yeah,
Cars with carburetors. It has to have a carburetor.
Right,
and make
right.
sure you can find a leaded gas station while you're at it.
Stewart's would come
No,
with
they'll run on unleaded, but you want one with a carburetor and points ignition for the zombie apocalypse.
Okay.
Or
All right,
for
Paul.
Terminator and the like the nuclear wars
Mad
and the
Max.
electromagnetics.
Mad Max.
Yeah, all of that.
Paul
Carby's
Wallace.
Oh, okay, thank you. Can I just try the solution that Mickey suggested?
What is that?
Okay, let me see if I can get on that camera now. I'm gonna see if you get audio out of this now.
I'm hearing.
All right, I'm playing it. I'm showing bars on the ATEM Mini. Are you getting audio off?
Do you
this
see
video?
anything coming out of your master on the ATEM Mini? The
Uh,
far right one?
Far right.
We don't hear it right now.
Yeah, I don't think the channel's on.
The channel's on. I've got the channel. I've got AFV is red.
What's the source in Zoom right now?
The
Paul?
Zoom source is microphone is Zoom L8 audio.
No, you should switch to the BlackMagic microphone.
Can we do a second hour for tech support for Paul Wallace?
Yeah, we'll just have a
tuning knob.
Yes.
Paul Wallace.
And I'm seeing like a 7-second delay on your video.
Yeah.
And I haven't programmed this yet.
He's
This
not
is
even
right out
talking
of
on
the
this.
box.
That's it.
Yep, we're hearing the audio from the video.
Yeah, we got it.
Forward to learning it.
That's it. Now, what is that? That's your
Please.
in-car radio there? It's your,
Yeah,
it's
he's
your,
just replaying from 20 minutes ago or 30 minutes ago, whenever he
It's his
held
ham
that up.
radio.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
Paul?
so it worked, right? That worked.
I think you need to focus, Paul. Cameras, microphone, or
That's right.
ham.
Okay.
Call
One
Adam
per-
Curry to come over to help you, Paul.
You figured that out. All right. Let's move on.
Okay. George E. Kennedy Jr. from Washington, D.C. Hey, George. Thoughts on the AJA Bridge Live? What's next for BlackMagic with ATEM Streaming Bridge?
Yes. Jason.
Is that a similar product, George?
By no means. The AGA bridge is like $14,000 versus $245. But I'm gonna let some other folks jump in first.
Go ahead, Jason.
I mean, I ordered it the very first day, and for those that don't know, the streaming bridge from Blackmagic Design was announced the same day as the ATEM Mini ISO, and what it essentially allows you to do, we hope, and I'm gonna say Fenwick's favorite thing. If you go to the manual, let me just tell you, if you go to the manual, they've got a brand new section that I forgot to bring up earlier on Targa files. So if any of you have messed it all around with downstream keys and you can't get a Targa file to work, they rewrote that. But no, to answer the question, what we're hoping for is to be able to decode and to pull a stream in from remote over Ethernet and send the configuration that we need over IP.
I'm impressed that Jason's just tracking changes on others' manuals. I think that's interesting to see What's new in the manual this week, Jason?
Let me tell you.
I like that. Yeah, Victor.
Yeah, Jason, I'm supposed to be getting mine very quickly here. So when you get yours, I would love to do some testing with you.
Yeah, let's give it a shot.
Sounds fun. Stuart.
Where to start? Okay,
boy.
firstly, AGA don't update their manuals. I'm still waiting for Scion manuals to be updated. Okay, the other thing is I looked at it and I looked at the price and I thought, who at AJA is deciding the prices? For the same money you spend for that, I could probably get 25 Chinese knockoff box decoders and do the exact same thing. The difference being you need to read the manual first and operate them. I looked at the price and I thought, who comes up with this idea?
Okay, George.
So my hope is that BlackMagic has delayed the bridge for whatever reason, but hopefully it's to put some more, hopefully they heard some things from office hours and from the industry as a whole, and then put some other technology inside of that bridge beyond just working with the ATM minis. So that's my hope. I agree with Stuart. $14,000 for what AJA has, you really could do a lot of it with software based in the cloud, whatever the case may be. But I think they put themselves out of the mix with, they're targeting broadcast. I don't think it's for any of us.
Nice. Okay. All right. Next question, Mr. Christopher.
Mr. Mobley from Newman, Georgia says, is anyone using a Mac and PC with an ATEM Mini? If so, why?
So Tony, I'll just give you the quick answer that you only control an ATEM Mini with one computer. You have to choose one or the other for controlling for working with the ATEM Mini. That said, you can use other computers as video sources to show through your ATEM Mini. So depending on, yeah. All right. So let's get some clarification. Go ahead, Fenwick.
So I know virtually nothing about this, but it is my understanding that you could have multiple computers on a network controlling different modules within the ATEM
So that's
switcher
deep.
software.
I
Am I
don't
wrong
think
about
Tony's
that?
asking about that, but you're right. You're right about that level of split out. Yeah, Paul.
Okay.
Yeah, I have, are you getting my audio now?
Yep.
Okay,
Yes,
I
Paul.
have 4 computers on a switcher. It's a KVM, and I can switch. And I've got all my cameras, my ATEM Mini, everything hooked up to the KVM, so I can use any one of 4 computers to manage to do live broadcasts.
Right. So Tony, just to be clear, what Paul's saying is you can choose computers, cameras, lots of different things to show in your 4 channels of an ATEM Mini. And one could be a Mac and one could be a PC, if that's what you're asking.
That's not what I'm saying.
Okay, go ahead.
What I'm saying is I've got everything hooked up to the ATEM Mini. I've got cameras. I've got all kinds of stuff hooked up to the ATEM Mini. And then I can run the ATEM Mini off of any one of 4 computers. I can switch to any of those computers.
But only one at a time.
One at a time, correct.
Right.
But I don't have to take the ATEM Mini and switch everything over to another computer. It's instantaneous.
Yes. So an ATEM Mini will work with a Mac and it will work with a PC, but you can only use one at a time.
I've got a Mac as one of the computers that's hooked up, but I haven't really tried it yet. I'll give it a try and let you know if it works.
All right, Jason.
It's worth mentioning, of course, that if you only have one computer, you can just duplicate the ATEM application. If you need all 4 panels and you've got enough screen real estate, just duplicate it and you can run everything. I don't really understand
that's
why
ninja level
question.
operation. That's if you're really wanting to do some acrobatics with ATEM Mini. I don't think that's civilian level operation of an ATEM Mini, right? All right,
That's
Sky.
Jason level.
Yeah. Tony, I know we miss you. We'd love to see you back on the panel again, but I use the switcher, which is a traffic cop. It's letting me choose which camera or which source that I want to be fed out to a thing. It is ubiquitous. It can be used both on a Macintosh machine And it can also be used on the same box, can also be used on a Windows machine. So on a simple basis, it's just a traffic cop that lets me choose what image I want to send out, and it can be used on either platform.
Okay. So Tony, join us if you have further questions about that. Love to see you. All right, next one.
All right, thanks, Tony. Dorian Robinson from Bermuda says, is there a way to create a playlist of chapter markers for an audio file? I want to do this without changing the original file.
Yeah, I'm sure we've got some folks here. Jason, go.
Yeah, there are a ton. I mean, I hate, this is such a broad answer that I've got to say what's your platform, because I feel like Mickey and I could both say there are so many ways to annotate that you're just wasting your time unless you tell us what your platform is.
You want to just give like one of each or something like that? Just an example?
Sure. Okay. In Logic, I believe it's, M would just add a marker, and that's the same in Final Cut Pro.
And you
that's
can
an easy one.
You can export lists of those as a playlist if you'd like to. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Anyone else have any crack at that? Maybe Dorian come back with some more information if you need more. Yeah, Chris?
One nice thing in at least the QuickTime realm is if you place those markers using Final Cut, you have to make chapter markers. Once you export that file, and I believe it works with audio only, and I'm sorry, I'm typically doing it with video, but those chapter markers will travel outside of Final Cut and show up as a little pull down window. And as a matter of fact, if you take that file and run it through compressor, and again,
QuickTime, you get your chapters.
You still get your chapters. And I'm pretty sure that works with the audio files as well as video files.
Yeah.
So yeah, that chapter information flows all the way through the pipeline. There's also, and again, this is very Mac centric, but in the Final Cut world, there's a utility that was just released about a month ago from, it was co-produced between FCP.co and Ripple Training that allows you to export very simply, and I can't remember the exact workflow, but it simplifies the process of getting those chapter markers from your Final Cut timeline all the way to your YouTube player. So once you've uploaded it, you can paste that in. I can't remember exactly how it works, but it saves a bunch of headaches.
Cool. Mickey?
Yeah, definitely like what Jason said, each platform, distribution platform usually has their own interface for doing it. Like say if you're putting out Audible books, Audible has their own chapter marker system because they have to link that to if you download an ebook, because you know how you can sync up your ebook reading to your Audible chapters. So they have to have their own system for that. But there's an app called Podcast Chapters that will allow you to do it on an individual MP3 file if you have to do it that way.
Nice. All right. Moving on.
Victor says, boom, if you wanted to private live stream to a group of people, would you go the AWS way or Vimeo Premium?
You'd probably do either.
You're trying to do private sax jams, Victor?
Yeah.
I may have to next month if Facebook does what they say they're going to do.
Oh, what's Facebook going to do?
I thought that was put off to the end of the year.
They're going to get real tight on playing any music that's commercial and shutting off streams.
Oh.
Yeah.
But I think, AWS or Vimeo is probably easier to set up, I would guess. Victor, but I think you could probably go either way. Bill?
Yeah, I was going to support exactly what you're saying, Phil. Vimeo is very much public facing. It is designed to be a content distribution network that people can get access to through their premium levels, and it's built for an end user. I think AWS is more a backroom solution at this point, where they're expecting you to know a little more about IT infrastructure and programming to get it to work. I don't think the sophistication of the interface is as well developed.
That makes all the sense in the world. Thank you.
Yeah, but I think Vimeo is definitely public facing, and that's their core business.
And my sense also is if you're just trying to do like a onesie twosie, let's see how it goes. Vimeo's probably an easier get in and get out kind of a situation versus AWS. You kind of got to set up a little infrastructure to do that, you know.
Well, unfortunately, the Vimeo level that does live streaming is the pro, and they don't let you try it. You have to pay up front a
No,
year.
what I mean, but it's not a huge learning curve that you got to invest in to try to get it up and running. You know, it's
Yeah, that's a couple of $100. I think Vimeo Pro levels
right.
200 or something like that.
So 75 a month.
Oh, 75 a month now?
Upfront, a year upfront.
Oh,
wow.
And it's the only level that has live streaming, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah, George?
Victor, I mean, I know sticking to Facebook is all about trying to get the numbers of the folks you want to come to your stream. I mean, you might have to figure out a different approach. Also, Wowza is a good option. The cost on the entry level is small, but you can also build out. I'm sure you already have a website. You might have you thought about streaming to your own website?
You know, I haven't had my own website in years, so but I see what you're saying. I guess it could be done that way for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of ways to get around it, and I understand paying for an entire Vimeo suite could be a little bit costly if you're not going to use it on a regular basis.
I'm just trying to make it easy for people. That's why I use Facebook. Is you know, a lot of people that follow me, they're my age, and so it's like, oh, Victor's live, one click, and they're in there with me. You know, and again, I'm talking about very few people, and I'm just trying to make it easy for them. If I complicate things, I think even the few that show up now may not show up. That's my concern.
Yeah, Preto.
So Renee Ritchie talked about this message that Facebook put out, and it's mostly clickbait. He says this rhetoric that they posted or somebody reposted is no different that's been in their TNCs for years and years. So I don't think much going to happen.
We'll find out.
Yeah, Bill.
And Victor, I wonder if you would consider two different processes, like Patreon and those things that allow people to support you on one tier, and then hosting all of your sax jams on Vimeo Pro at the level. Because it seems like to me like I'm just paying a couple $100 a year, so there must be a level between. I have a Vimeo Pro account. I've had it for probably.
Can you live stream from it?
No, but that's what I'm. Oh, it's the live stream element of it.
It's the interaction that comes along with the live stream that makes it fun for them and for me, to be quite honest, to have a live audience and talk to them between songs. And
I totally misunderstood. Yes, you're right. The live aspect is the differentiator.
Yeah. All right, Sky.
Well, I guess that was exactly where my conversation was going to go. Is it this word that we're hearing, asynchronous or synchronous? And you're saying you want the live in the moment. So how do you interact with your audience? Do you have, is it just chat? Do you bring them in?
Yeah, through chat. I can bring their chats in. I can look at their chat. You know, it's obviously a one-way conversation that way. I mean, Alex really has the best idea, which is why not do exactly what we are doing here?
Yeah.
And just do a Zoom where people could literally interact with me. So that's another way to go. But again, it's the entry curve to get people to do that.
And again, coming from theater, I'm very familiar with the live interactive energy that you get. But then I moved into film, which is exactly the same. Not exactly, sorry, but it's a storytelling concept and a delivery that is just a different format. So it's and there's the other two words I'm going to throw in before Phil cuts me off is engagement, but the participation versus a observer, and at what point, who's paying for what's the best practice in that moment. So you want people in the room with good cigars and scotch.
All right, I think Sky's done. I want to let it breathe. Okay, now Fenwick.
So Victor, here's a crazy idea. I hate Facebook, but I get the Facebook is it's where the audience is, and you said one click and they can watch it. So what if you created something where you had and I'm sure there's a way to do this cost effectively, where you built your live stream on Facebook, but what you're live streaming to Facebook is an inset window, maybe even a screen scrape from Zoom, and a audio file or a graphic that says, please, I'm live right now. Please click the link below and come and watch me on Zoom. And so there's no audio on it, and say, because of Mark Zuckerberg's onerous, crap or whatever, excuse me, stuff, I can't play my music here, but click and come and be part of my audience in Zoom. So it's a live feed there, minus the music and a little bit of a Zuckerberg poke. But then and maybe you can't do that. Can you do that in Facebook? Can you have a link that leaves the Facebook platform? So use Facebook as an on-ramp, or rather an off-ramp.
Well, that's why I come to the Mind Hive. This is
It's
why
a
I come to the
Zucker
Mind Hive.
punch. Zucker punch. Get it right.
Zucker punch.
Poking the bear.
Yeah.
A Zucker punch. That's awesome.
And you can have that closed captioning underneath. Instead of the audio, it just says awesome sax music playing.
Yeah.
Yeah. These are really good ideas. Really good ideas.
With the little music notes like they do in
exactly.
SRT.
Right. All right, Sky,
Awesome.
one more, and then we're going to move on.
Well, to John Preto's case, it might be the competition that's trying to stir up ill will so that'll drive you to some other platform. So I'd talk to John, because it might be just the competition. That's
I won't do it until they cut me off at my knees. Trust me. I will continue the way I'm doing.
But
well,
I think use
person
Facebook as an off-ramp.
Person that works in marketing, I was referred to as the man that lies for a living. It's like, yeah, well, maybe a little bit.
Bravo to Victor for looking downstream and preparing for change, because I think we all have to learn to do that consistently going forward, because there's going to be a lot of change coming.
Yeah.
Thanks for humoring me, guys. I appreciate your time and your knowledge.
For sure. Yeah. All right, Chris.
Lucas Herzog from Mainz. Is that a place? Any thoughts on the new Microsoft Teams features, custom layouts, breakout rooms, etc.?
Teams feature. Any update? Yeah, go ahead, Jason.
Microsoft has this terrible habit. Anytime a company is about to release something, they go, "Oh, we can do that too." And the real question isn't the announcement. The real question isn't that they know what to say on stage. What it comes down to is, can they actually do what they say they're going to do without too many compromises and too many gotchas? The answer is probably not.
Didn't Windows 95 come out in 1996? I'm just saying.
Fredo.
So Colin and I have been reviewing their latest SDK and their access, and they're giving access to the raw audio and video frames, and so we're excited about checking that out. And you're not locked into their architecture, so we can use other platforms to develop into their SDK.
Nice. Cool. All right, Fenwick, I'm gonna jump it over to you. Got a meeting, got a thing.
Let's keep the party going. Thanks for hanging out, Phil.
Bye, Phil. Take
And
care.
let's do that. Oh, he's already gone. He's going to teach me some keyboard maestro stuff. We have 7 more questions and a half hour. Lawrence Littlehill from Concord, North Carolina says, referring back to a pre-show topic, is there any date on the number of those autonomous delivery bots that don't get to their destination? Is there any data, on the number of those autonomous delivery bots that don't get to their destination? I don't remember this discussion. Jason?
I don't remember the discussion either, but as the guy that wrote an app called Legal Flyer, I can tell you, no, FAA doesn't tell you, and Amazon certainly won't.
Yeah, why would they publish what doesn't work?
The discussion was Alex in LA yesterday ran across an R2D2 just going down the street, waiting at the stoplight, going crossing. So that was the reference.
Interesting.
That was 3 hours ago.
Hey, completely off topic.
That's never happened.
Because Dad left me the keys to the car. Hey, Jason, can you explain in a phrase or a nutshell? You've mentioned it multiple times that you have been hired as a expert witness. How did that come about, and what kind of case was it?
I cannot really talk about it, but in general, clients ask me to look at things and then to provide my expert opinion. And if the judge decides to allow it, then that's that.
How many times have you been in court?
In court, none. My first one is next month. Depositions, I've done two that have actually gotten that far after the affidavit.
Interesting. Okay. Just curious. I already did this one. Marty from Maryland says, Silver Springs, Maryland, I have a PreSonus AudioBox extension sound interface. Playing an audio file does not make it to Zoom sharing, only to the speakers. Zoom input choices are only for the mic inputs. Any suggestion? I would ask Mac or PC first. Right, Stuart? And so Stuart, I'm going to come to you for a second. In the Mac world, I would go into the audio hijack loopback world and create a virtual patch bay. Stuart, how would you do it in a PC?
I would go down to the name, bloody, yep, sorry. Bottom right corner of your screen where all your little icons are. Right click on the one marked that looks like a speaker. Open volume mixer and check that your source is showing there and that it's not muted out.
Yeah.
Right click on it again and choose playback devices, and then go through the settings of the playback devices to pull it up so it actually appears as an option.
Jason, then Mickey.
I'll defer to Mickey. I'm sure his answer is going to be better.
Nicely done, Jason. Mickey.
Oh, pressure's on. Okay. Yeah.
Don't screw it up.
I'm wondering what sort of experience Marty has with this. Like maybe he completely gets what he's doing, but I wonder if he might be confusing, like on an audio interface, the outputs versus the inputs. So if you're, say, playing back music through iTunes or QuickTime or whatever he's using to play it back, and it's feeding to an output of the interface, that output, that feed, is not seen by Zoom as an input. So you have to differentiate the outputs versus the inputs. And yeah, I totally agree with what Chris was saying. If on a Mac, I would rather go with the solutions such as loopback or audio hijack, or on a PC, whatever it's called, something banana milkshake,
VB audio,
whatever. Banana potato, whatever.
Lawrence?
I do use Loop Deck as well, but there is an alternative that's cheaper. It's called Sound Siphon. It's Mac only, but it's half the price. If you only need like one chain, like in my case, and all the rest I'm doing over audio hijack, it works equally good. So I just want to get it out there.
Okay. And again, hey, can we just play? Mickey, can you dual pin Lawrence and Beiju? Beiju's gone. Is Beiju gone?
Yeah, looks like he is.
Never mind. Okay, I just wanted to see those two cameras side by side. Looks great. All right, moving on. Dave.
Yeah,
Burke,
but you didn't ask Lawrence what camera he's running, Chris.
Yeah, what camera are you on, Lawrence?
Yeah, this look is a pain to maintain for 2 hours. It's the G7, the Lumix G7, but the lens is doing the trick. It's a 1.4 25 mil. So the autofocus is not working. And
why is it a pain to maintain for 2 hours?
Because it's a depth of field, so it's starting in a pitch dark room, and then now where the sun comes in. So I adjust my camera settings during the show. It can be controlled over an iPad over Wi-Fi, so I can set exposure.
That's like George.
So it's not easy it's not a plug and play solution, but yeah, at times it looks decent.
It looks great. Anyway, okay, so Dave Burke from Alexandria says, why do you guys use a cable control, especially mounting to the underside of a desk or table in a way that won't fall down? Why do you guys use it?
What do
you use? Oh, cable control. Oh, I'm going to tell you what I use. Go to IKEA, and they have a thing. It's a basket. You put 2 screws in the bottom of your desk, and it's about 4 feet long, and it's made of wire, so it's very easy to tuck cables in, and you can pull the cable out wherever you need to pull it out. And I put them underneath every desk at the office.
It's called a Foofengiegler, and everybody believed me, even though I was making that up.
Okay, Paul,
IKEA
and then
naming.
Jason, and then George.
I use these Velcro straps, you know, and then I also use magnets because I have a metal desk, so I can take a combination of magnets and Velcro.
It is my experience that magnets and electricity always work well together.
That's
Jason?
why your mics don't work, Paul.
Yeah, I was about to say, I hope you're not using any mechanical hard drives. That's perfect. It's actually a great question for this panel. I mean, so, you know, most of us, I just shot that. Like, I'm looking at a lot of stuff. So it is a constant struggle.
Yeah. Jason,
Anytime.
you don't get to talk about cable management ever again. Do you understand?
Hey, you know what? I'm right in the middle of a rewire, and I have been for a decade, so I don't want to hear it.
George, then Stuart.
So the baskets are great, but if the best way to really control cable wiring right now, I use rip ties, and rip ties have these. They also have a version that you could just. It takes a screw in and then it's a loop. That I can't show it right now. I don't have a computer attached. But rip ties is the best way to go because it's a loop and hook, right? Mickey,
Velcro.
that you could just put the bundle into and just tie it off.
Code. Yep. Stuart, then I think Mickey had his hand up. Mickey's running to get a demo. Stuart?
Don't use cable ties on coaxial cables. You will get signal reflections on them. Also, that shot that Jason just showed, messy cables do not crosstalk. So messy cables are a good thing for making sure your signals don't mix each other up and cause interference.
Eat that, Fenwick!
I could probably, but not today, show you the back of different high definition control rooms where things are a complete mess and there's never a signal issue.
Mr.
Chris?
Davis.
So for me, about every twice a year, I go down and it's a combination for me of a staple gun, and I usually use the little ones that use the U staples for cabling. And what I do is I use a couple of simple zip ties, staple them under the desk, and then keep apart any power cables or any higher level stuff from the signal cables. The signal cables get sent out differently. Once you do that, and my wife just came to me the other day because I did that on our main entertainment system because we had guests last night, and she came and gave me a big hug and said, I've been waiting for you to take care of those wires for like 6 months, and I am so happy with you right now. So that's serious. There's a website, Cable, and then the last name starts with a P, and we can't say it here.
I can say it, cable porn.
Yeah, people.
Yeah, there's also a nice Reddit subreddit called Cable Porn.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's my
great
solution.
stuff. Okay, Hasmukh.
I'm having a customized disc made for this.
Are you having like a little channel somewhere for the cables or something?
Yeah, building channels, so I can close it all off, and it makes my wife very happy.
That's a smart idea. Sky, then Roscoe.
A carpenter friend of mine said, it doesn't matter how good the work you do, as long as your workplace is clean, your client will pay you. The other thought was, for Jason's point, the joke about, a messy desk is the sign of a messy mind, which always brings to my question is, what does an empty desk mean?
Oh man, am I getting love today?
Roscoe?
Isn't an empty desk the sign of a dictator?
That could be.
Yes.
Oh yeah, and by that.
Roscoe?
Guy, if you work for the government, they'll pay you regardless of how clean your desk.
I think it's negotiated.
But
come, children.
Hold on, everybody, please.
I couldn't find them in Home Depot. If you go to like the electrician section, there are these things that have they're plastic and they have like little arrows on the end, but there's 4, and they're perfect width for coax. And so you can put them underneath, and the coax actually snaps in and snaps out. I just love them. I can't find the name of them. I'll try and look, but just go to your local home hardware store and look for the electrical coax. They're not for coax. They're just very cool.
Roscoe, that sounds like the sort of cable management that would be used under an engine bay to stop spark plugs sitting next to each other.
Yeah, it's not. It's something it's something in home improvement in the electrical section, but it's definitely not an auto product because there's a nail on the end that you can nail it into wood.
The nail's good because the peel and stick ones never work for me. They last a few months and then they always come off. They're worthless.
Yeah, I replace them with screws because nailing you know, I already have usually electronics sitting on top of the table, so banging on the underside of a table when there's electronics on it.
Let's go to Mickey and then we'll move on. This is the thing I was talking about. Go, Mickey.
Yeah, there are these I don't know what they call them, but there are these little square plastic things with a little hook on it that you could put a thin Velcro strap on or a zip tie on, and those you could screw into the desk with those.
All right, we'll move on. Plenty of ways to do it is the answer. Our own Hasmik says HDMI camera for ATEM. I'm very happy with the Brio. I am having a hard time spending on a Blackmagic camera. Tried iPhone with HDMI dongle, Nikon Z6 on a tripod, a very old Sony camcorder, HDR SR11. None have been satisfying. Using Qlabs, I need an HDMI camera into my ATEM. Would you buy the Blackmagic? Everybody who owns a Blackmagic is giving us a thumbs up right now.
I can see that.
Let's go Sky, George, and Roscoe.
I started with the Lumix cameras because that was the best price point with a flip out lens that I could take into tight locations when I was going to Haiti fairly regularly. I moved over to the Blackmagic because of its robustness, but still flexibility. But again, unlike a traditional video camera that Stuart has often shown us, it's more of a kit now that you make. It's like a adult Lego set. You build it the way you need it. So it's very robust, flexible, and Blackmagic is continuing to progress. So it's a good starting spot. And the same price, $1,200.
I think George was next.
Yes. So I have a couple of pocket cameras, but I'm still using my main camera right now is still my Ultra Micro Studio camera. So that's $1,000. You could still save on that. But IBC is still around the corner. Blackmagic is probably still gonna release something else this year, so I would hold off at least until December.
You know, George, on your image, and the one you have is the little cube one, correct?
That's correct, the micro.
Yeah. On your image, there's a lot of bending on the background, and I don't know if that's your transmission data, if it's the lighting, if it's, I mean, it's a very clear, it almost looks like the Looney Tunes, spotlight look. And
I'm still doing some work on this setup, so
Yeah.
we should be able to get rid of that band in here soon.
All right. I'm not being critical. I'm just pointing out
or
something
embrace it.
we've been noticing. Okay, so wow, a lot of hands. Let's go, Roscoe. Remember this and self edit. Roscoe, Stuart, Jason, Mickey, Bill. Sorry, Paul.
I was going to ask George real quick how fast that lens is that he has, because the one thing about the micro studios is they're not very good for low light, and so you need a really fast lens. But my question, so George, can you tell me what lens is on there real quick?
This is the Olympus 12 to 40.
Do you know what the speed is on it? Like 2.8?
It's the 2.8.
Yeah, 2.8. Yeah. Anyway, and so yeah, it's a great lens. But so get a good lens if you're going to get that micro studio. So if you go to the 4Ks, Hasmik, I would ask, what are you really going to use it for? Because that really tells us whether or not you need to get into the Blackmagic world.
Yeah, that's for the two kinds of productions, the cooking class, the instructor-led classrooms, and then the language training. So with Qlabs, obviously I want to do a lot of overlays, graphic overlays.
Right.
And obviously with the Brio, I can't do that. So that's where I'm
the cooking
sitting.
shows you have total control over the lighting.
Yeah, I have absolute control over lighting in every situation.
Yeah, my recommendation would go ahead and buy into the Pocket, into the Blackmagic world, because I mean just because
yeah.
You know, I know it's a price buy-in, but
Yeah,
if you stick with the 4K, your lenses aren't going to cost you as much, and you're not going to have as much baked into it. I have a 4K. I'm buying 6Ks for my next big install, which is coming up here. The money's already around, but go ahead and I would definitely go with the 4K. There's just so much more you can do with it when you're trying to do high-end shows.
Yeah, I'm attracted by the fact that through the ATEM you can manage the camera settings.
Exactly.
So that's very attractive.
Especially to make the food look good, and I'll stop after that.
Stuart?
I was actually going to ask the same sort of question of Hasmuk and what sort of situation is using it, but an alternative with the camera mounted over the top of the talent, you want as light as possible in case it falls on somebody's head. So I would actually look at a GoPro with a backbone conversion that allows you to put a different lens on it. So it's a very small package, and if it happens to fall, it doesn't injure anyone. Or maybe a Z cam, which is a micro 4/3 sensor. But for the front of house camera, yeah, from what you've said, the Blackmagic is looking more and more like the choice to make.
Can you get a live feed out of that GoPro? Because he wants to switch this live.
Yeah, with a HDMI output.
Okay.
It's on the side of the camera.
Okay, Jason?
So also keep in mind, I too, so this main camera is a micro studio 4K. And the benefit to it is the detail. I mean, yeah, of course, I'm coming in at 720, but the hair detail, if you give it more dots, you end up with a better image straight away. If you want to just get something that's small and cheap, I haven't plugged this in yet, but as long as you can turn down the aperture and turn up the light, I'd say compact HDMI out. Let's
be careful
this
recommending something that we haven't looked at too deeply.
You know what? Fine.
I'm just trying to be smart. Mickey, you had your hand up, yeah?
Yeah, Hasmuk, correct me if I'm wrong. Don't you already have the 6K or the 4K?
No, I don't have any Blackmagic cameras.
Okay.
Hasmuk buys Brios by the boxful.
I export
by the master
them.
cartons.
Real quick,
for those who need it.
Hasmuk, do you have the mini, or you have a mini, right? ATEM mini.
I have the ATEM Mini Pro, yes.
Okay, so make sure that you get in a pocket, because otherwise you're not going to be able to control a Blackmagic camera.
Yeah. Just a quick one to respond to Stuart about the overhead one. I actually bought a projector telescope thing, so it's fixed onto the concrete of the ceiling, and I can secure the camera very well.
Okay, I'm gonna for time, I'm gonna cut this off. We've talked about this too long. Sorry, everybody, please put your hands down. James Babbitt from San Diego says, are there any steps to improve the video in Zoom meetings I host other than having Guy attend the meeting to improve the quality? Does it make a difference if everyone has updated to the latest version of Zoom? I'm telling you, Guy, there's a business model here.
Yeah. Yeah, the Zoom Room's the best thing to bump up a meeting to 720, and I mean it's 10 licenses, and then the Zoom Room.
I've been
is
pricing
49.
it out. It's about it's going to cost you $2,500 a year to get your quality up, and 10 people can take advantage of it.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out a Zoom Room as a service. If anybody has any ideas, let me know. I'm still trying to figure out how I can.
I guarantee the EULA has some sort of rule against that, and if
why I
it doesn't, the minute you set it up, there will be.
Yeah,
Let's just do a group purchase thing of a business account, like 10 at a time, guys. 10 at a time.
Yeah, well, all we got to do is create a business called Zoom Rooms Are Us or whatever, and we buy our 10 licenses. That's actually not a bad idea. Hey, there's your service. You could
Zoom cooperative.
It'd be like a dating service. Like you find another 9 people who need to get in on the service with you.
I'm in for 2, Guy.
There you go. Predo needs 2. Anybody else want to get in on it?
Yeah,
I'm in.
All right, look at this. We got 125 people and participants. So if people don't realize, and I want to talk a little bit about this, and then I'm going to cut myself off. Now, you know what? I'll do this another time. Okay, we're going to move on. Sorry. We're going to do Michael J. I want to say Fox from New York City. Zoom meetings versus Zoom webinar, which is better? Can you talk about the best features of each? Mr. Preto.
So the main difference between webinar and meetings is meetings does not have attendees. Everybody's a panelist. And meetings has breakout rooms, which is a huge difference.
Right. So to be clear, there are, whatever it is left of us, 18 of us to 16, 17 in this on screen, but there's 120 plus other people watching. So that's a webinar. But really the breakout things is one of the big reasons. Paul?
Okay, so for what Alex is doing, the webinar totally makes sense. For
Absolutely.
what, like a group like the Internet Marketing Party in Austin, they have like breakout rooms, and I meet people. I make connections. So the ideal would be to have a hybrid of both, where you could do both. Is there any way to do that?
Yeah, I think the way to do that is you get a little fancy, you build yourself a landing page that has links to the various places that you need to go. And you could modify that landing page throughout the day. So at the 2 o'clock hour, people go and they go, oh, there's only one place to go. And you go to the, John, what's the word that is used for a plenary? Is that the word?
Plenary, yeah.
A plenary, which is a, you know, everybody join in together. And then you could and that could be a webinar, but then you could go to, you know, the next hour, there might be like 4 meetings or 1 meeting with a bunch of breakout rooms.
Smash a meeting together with a webinar, you get a mebinar.
We're not ever going to do that. Eric Hall from Mount Vernon says, how do you manage Zoom registrations personally when having to operate Zoom in multiple contexts? By the way, I have no way to know who I am currently in this webinar. I don't know how to see who I am when in a webinar. Note, I'm a first timer. Welcome, Eric. Sorry if my question is possibly unrelated. Is there an FAQ somewhere for this event? No, I don't. Well, there's the Discord. Also, reconciling the desk client during joins of a registered event. Mr. Preto.
So this is what Zoom's API is really good about, is getting people registered. And so we're using Eventbrite and capturing information, and using the API, we're able to register them directly into Zoom. And it's really feature rich as far as registration and scheduling goes as a resource.
How advanced I know that you're doing this with Talent Pros Live. How advanced do you have to be to like get into that API and tie Eventbrite into the Zoom API?
You have to be like Jason or Colin.
Okay, Jason.
Don't look at me. Like what?
I thought I saw your hand up.
Oh, no. Sorry, that was for the next one.
Oh, okay. Wow, you're pre-handing. Nice.
I am pre-handing. Yeah, sorry.
Doug Williams from Toronto says, what are your suggestions for a DSLR webcam option that won't break the bank, i.e. under 100 Canadian dollars?
1,000 Canadian dollars.
1,000 Canadian dollars. That's what I meant to say, and I didn't.
Okay, how much is?
Okay, so let's try and make this a little quick. We're kind of out of time.
I think that's one Colin.
Jason, Stuart, Sky, Roscoe, Lawrence, done. Paul, I'm going to let you wrap it all up. Jason.
The reason that Panasonic has such a great following for those who are like photo enthusiasts and video enthusiasts is that they've really, really nailed the ability to get both and do them really well. So you'll be impressed if you look at any of the Panasonic Lumix stuff. I don't use it just because I have glass from other companies.
Stuart?
Glass from other companies can go straight on to the Panasonic ones with a mechanical adapter. I was going to answer exactly the same as Jason, but I was also going to say, don't buy the Pentax ones. The HDMI out is bollocks.
Okay, Sky?
As I said, I started with the DSLR, the Lumix brand, because that was flexible and capable, but I would not buy it as a webcam, but it can be used as a webcam because it has HDMI out, and it'll do so many other things as well.
Roscoe?
Wow, a panel that actually agrees. I was going the same place, Lumix. And don't be afraid to go, Panasonic, Lumix, and don't be afraid to go into the used market if you need to get under that $1,000, because there's a lot of older GH4s that are really good, GH5s and that kind of stuff. They may not be the newest, but they work well.
Lawrence?
Yes, I use GH5 and GH4s, but for this, like I said, it's a Lumix G7. It's about $500 with a kit lens. It's a great starter kit. It has clean HDMI and Wi-Fi control.
Guy?
Lumix G100. This is $747 with the 12 to 32, which is a micro four thirds lens. So that would be a 24 to 64. So, and I also bought the
power
yeah, the power bricks. There's a dummy battery in there, so I can power it on for hours instead of letting the batteries die.
Oh, I will be calling you for that. I need that.
Okay, I have the GH5. It's like a cult classic camera. It's really great. But what I really like better is this Sony, the Zulu Victor 1. It's not a true DSLR, but man, and you get this cool remote with it too. That's awesome.
All right. Plenty of camera choices. Cool. And our last question, I'm going to assure that that is indeed the last question, is that Jay Scott from Jackson says, app recommendations to playback media on a Mac for events in person and over Zoom. I'm looking for a Playback Pro replacement. Jason?
If you're willing to spend real money, there's only one answer, MIDI. It's fantastic.
Okay. And how much is that real money? How many money?
$300, I think, something like that.
Okay. Mr. Preto, live long and prosper.
Live long and prosper. I use OBS to play back media.
How do you select which file you're going to do? Do you just...
You set up a scene and then you select the sources. Or
So
you can set up...
You have to make a scene for each piece of media? Or do you have a scene that is playback media and then within that
all
scene...
the media in one scene if you want.
Okay. Lawrence?
And it's free.
So low cost.
So I'm gonna, yes, sorry about that. I'm gonna quickly share my screen. It's not screen shared, so the resolution might be off. But basically, from free
it looks
to
great.
So we start with, that's the ones I've tried and used. So the H2R graphics.
Lawrence, did you just whip up this graphic as I was reading the question?
No,
Okay,
I didn't.
You seem fairly well prepared for this answer.
Yeah, so that's so H2R2 graphics. Then I have to go quick because we're running out of time. Then Keynote from Apple, PlayU TB was mentioned earlier. That's the Raspberry Pi HyperDeck simulator. Mix 16 Pro, $45 app or Mac or PC to play back. MIDI as mentioned, and then Pro Presenter and Qlab. So that's in the order of free to expensive, and all of these will work beautifully on a Mac.
He whipped that up in 5 seconds, Chris.
Awesome graphic. Thank you for that. And then George, you had your hand up.
Real quick.
And you're free to show any graphic that you've prepared.
No, I have no graphic. I agree with Jason. MIDI will give you 2 licenses on 2 Macs. Also, OBS for me, I know John loves it, but I need TRT. There is a new TRT function in OBS, but you have to keep your mouse in the preview window. I need TRT. If you have a show caller, they want to know exactly where you have to play back. So MIDI is it for me.
All right. We got through all the questions. I'm serious about wanting to do a 3rd hour someday. And this is off the record. This is not official. Jason, if you want to like share some Illustrator stuff, I'd love to do that. And this is specifically Illustrator when it comes to prepping graphics for video. And I think
I'm completely down. And I feel like, again, you may end up being the expert. I feel like everyone always ends up learning this on their own.
Here's what I can tell you. If I'm the expert, this is a sad world that we live in, because it pains me to do it, but it has to be. Sky, what is happening to your light? it's obviously the end of the show. Okay, so it is after 9 o'clock. We'll do that someday. Thank you, everybody. Mickey, you can hit the music. Today's Monday. Tomorrow will be audio-centric stuff in the second hour. Wednesday will be, video or camera. We don't know who's going to be hosting tomorrow, but Alex will call upon one of us plebes to take over. And then Friday will be education as well as Saturday. So have a great day. Go be prosperous, make tons of money, and keep learning. Talk to you guys later. Let the music
came
stay.
out. The sun came out in Seattle. Who knew?
I vote Paul for host.
Who would have thunk it? Good night, everybody.